If you told me Liam Lawson's race seat was on the line after just 2 races, I would have probably believed you. Liam Lawson's start to the season has been awful, from never really getting going in Australia and then failing to get into Q2 in the sprint and in the main qualifying at the Chinese GP. The pressure is really starting to mount on Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson was picked ahead of Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo to get the Red Bull seat at the back of last season after impressing in the Racing Bull. However, some still questioned whether it was wise to put someone who hasn't spent a full season in F1 in a seat against Verstappen. It seemed rushed. Now, if you look back a few years, history will tell you that this is something you don't want to do, as Alex Albon had very similar circumstances at Red Bull after they threw him in the deep end, like they're kind of doing with Lawson. We all know what happened with Albon. He got the chop. Looking back at Albon's performances, they were nowhere near to the level which Liam Lawson is currently having. There is just not really a comparison. When I look back at Albon, it really wasn't that bad, and I think the media played a part in him getting the chop. He also had a few unfair results, unlucky results if even. So when I look back, I think Albon was lucky, but I also think it was kind of a blessing that happened to Alex. Anyways, back on track. Liam Lawson seems out of depth in a Red Bull that seems clearly targeted to help his teammate Max Verstappen. The Red Bull may not be fastest and it may just be average at best, but Verstappen can drive the wheels off of anything, and time isn't going to be on Lawson's side to catch up. Now my next question. Why didn't Red Bull go for Carlos Sainz? Carlos Sainz was kind of left in the deep end at the end of last season when Ferrari announced they would be replacing him with Lewis Hamilton for the season, and with Sergio Perez struggling more and more after each race, it seems likely that Sainz could see a return to the Red Bull family. However, Red Bull opted against that and decided to go for the youth. You can't really blame them. Red Bull have had a lot of success with youth drivers in the past, and they've made many F1 careers on the grid. However, things have changed, and you have Max Verstappen in the seat, and he is relentless. For me, what Red Bull really needed was a safe pair of hands, an experienced driver, a driver who's driven for top teams and can handle the press, he can handle the pressure. Carlos Sainz had drive for McLaren, he'd drive for Ferrari, he'd been up against Leclerc, he'd been up against Lando Norris, and he held his own each of the time. He wasn't getting comfortably beat by them, he was either matching them on a weekly basis or he was beating them. He wouldn't be a pushover, and maybe that's the problem. Are Red Bull afraid of having someone who can get close to Max or someone that could possibly beat him? Would that cause too much drama in the team, as we all know Verstappen is clearly the number one no matter who they put in the seat beside him? And I just feel like Red Bull are sometimes a bit afraid to go out there and get the best drivers available on the grid for that reason, because they have Max Verstappen. Now it's more competitive than ever, and I think you do need two top quality drivers in your seat if you're going to compete with the likes of McLaren and Ferrari, who have Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. They are top quality drivers. They are an example of two very strong driver pairings who will get you consistent points week in and week out, and it's very rare that one of them is going to have clunker after clunker of a race. Relying on Max Verstappen in what seems to be a mid-ish Red Bull car is going to leave you at the back of the top teams. Verstappen can only do so much. He can only carry so much weight on his shoulders. It works when you have the fastest car, but when it's this close, Red Bull have no chance and they're going to pay the price for that. So, who could replace Liam Lawson, or who will replace Liam Lawson? Well, at the front of that queue, for me, I think it has to be Yuki Tsunoda, who continues to impress and has had a really solid start to the 2025 season, outperforming the sister Red Bull car pretty much in every session he's competed in, which is just wild to me. Can we talk about that for a second? That is just crazy how Yuki Tsunoda is outperforming his car at the minute and going faster than the sister team in Red Bull, which Red Bull's always meant to have the upper hand, and he is consistently outperforming Liam Lawson. I think Yuki's putting his foot down because he knows this is the time to shine, because I don't think he's going to get a better opportunity. Yuki is fast and there's no doubt about that, but however, I think Red Bull is a bit hesitant because sometimes he could be a bit erratic, have some erratic behavior, and he isn't really pushed over. But the way he's performing is getting harder and harder to ignore Yuki Tsunoda. Isaac Hadjar is an option, but again, you're risking the same rookie problems by throwing him in at the deep end. I don't really see it happening just yet. I think he needs to get some footing under him. I don't think it's his time, and I think it would be silly to chuck him in I like Isaac Hatcher, but I don't want to see what's happened to all these other rookie drivers who just get thrown in. I don't think it's his time yet. Now, this one's a bit out there. Could we see a Daniel Ricciardo return? This is a long shot, and I sadly think Ricciardo's time in F1 might be numbered. However, would Red Bull pick up the phone to Ricciardo? Ricciardo is a reliable driver, and he's shown that he can compete with Verstappen in the past, and he knows how to handle that seat. However, I don't think he's the Daniel of old, and I think he would struggle to perform consistently with a Red Bull that seems to be struggling. However, he has had that seat at Red Bull before, and he knows what comes with it. He knows the pressures, he knows how to handle Verstappen, and I think it could be something worth looking at. And to be honest, nobody has really replaced Ricardo since he left. There was Checo, but yes, Checo had a few good seasons, but it was a faster Red Bull, and Checo ended up getting the sack as well. But it wasn't enough in the end, so who knows? Maybe Checo could be brought back, because surely Checo could be performing better in the Red Bull than this. He knows the car. That could be another option. I don't really see it happening, but never say never in Formula 1. As for Liam Lawson, it's not over until it's over, and I would like to see him turn it around because nobody really wants to see a driver get dropped. It can be humiliating and it takes time to recover. We've seen that with Pierre Gasly and Alex Albon, how long it took them to really get their mind back in shape again and focus on their driving, because just think the world seeing you get dropped from a top team basically saying you're not good enough. It must be embarrassing for them. However, Lawson has to get everything right in Japan. It's a track he knows. I don't think he ever did Australia. I'm not sure about the Chinese GP if he rode there before, but it's just been a nightmare start for him. He needs to turn it around in Japan, or I think his fate might be sealed and Red Bull are just going to cut him off and replace him. Being in the second seat of Red Bull is brutal, and it's probably the hardest seat to be in Formula 1, but who is going to be up to the challenge? Let me know your thoughts below. What do you think is going to happen with Liam Lawson? Who do you think might replace him if that happens? And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the love on the channel. I really appreciate it. If you liked it, make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.